So here's our model. It is the octopus, and this is what we're kind of looking for towards the end. So we're going to work our way through gradually, step by step. I will, like I said before, build alongside you, and hopefully we'll get something that looks like this towards the end. We're going to start off by mixing that purple color, the main color, and then we'll work on the shapes and basically getting things put together how we need them in the right order. So I'm just going to move him off for now. And like I said, we are going to mix that purple color to start off with. So back to our measuring spoons, and we're going to start off with our red clay. So if you can get your red clay, and you may need to take it out of the pot and give it a little freshen up, okay? But our first two measurements, we're going to use our number 5 spoon, and we're going to fill our number 5 spoon up twice, okay? So remember that measuring level that we did a moment ago, and fill that spoon up nice and level. So let's say we need 2 of them, so I'm going to fill it up once. I'm going to take one out, and then I'm going to fill it up again. And I know that's the amount of red I will need. Rest of my red away into the pot, lid on, out the way. Okay, don't need to worry about that too much. That's just the measurement. So our next measurement is with the blue clay, and this time we're going to fill up our number 4 and our number 3 spoon. Okay, so same process as we did before, but we're just dropping down the numbers. Okay, so number 4 and number 3, and that's the amount of blue we need. Blue clay back into the pot, out of the way. Okay, once we have that, once everybody's caught up, we'll get into the mix. So we'll put these all together and just get them folded together, all stretched. And if you see, I'm not stretching too much. Again, I don't want to make that mess that we spoke about before, the spaghetti. So I'm just folding slightly, getting those colors blended together. And eventually, as you keep going, the reds and blue will disappear to make that nice purple. Once you've got that all fully mixed, we're going to snap this off into the pieces or the measurements that we need. Okay, so first of all, I'm going to take off what we need for the head or the main body, and then we will work on the tentacles. Okay, so getting back to our spoons, that main part, the body or the head, is going to be measured out at a number 5 spoon. So using this purple clay, we're going to measure from this a number 5 and a number 2. So number 5 and a number 2. And we can put those two together. Keep the rest of this clay here for the time being. We're going to use this, and that number 5 and number 2 you can just stretch and roll into a slight ball for the time being. We're going to shape this later on, but right now we're going to keep it nice and fresh by using our airtight container. So if you've still got things in your airtight container, maybe take everything out and then place that bit of clay into your airtight container and close the lid. Okay, that'll keep that nice and fresh so we can shape it and mold it later on. Back to this clay now. So this is what we're going to use for the tentacles. Now, as you know, the octopus has 8 tentacles. So we are going to measure from this clay 8 tentacles using our measuring spoons again. We are going to use our number 2 spoon, and we're going to do 8 number 2 spoon measurements. Okay, so nice and level across the top, keeping them pretty much the same. 1, Now what you might find when you've all measured these out, you'll have some spare clay. So as you can see with me, I've got my 8 tentacles measured out and I've still got some spare clay. Now this is there in case you need or make a little mistake. We can use that again later on, or you can use this free play clay at the end. So again, I'm going to keep this fresh by putting it back into my airtight container, but keeping it away from the head body part that we've already measured out. So keeping it nice and separate out the way so they're not touching. And we are going to work on our tentacles now. Okay, so we are going to use your creator card slightly, but we're going to use the ruler on the back just for a kind of a guide, because these tentacles need to be roughly the same sort of length. Okay, so as we spoke about before in the induction about the starting position, we're going to need each one of these tentacles to kind of be stretched out slightly and then rolled into a nice smooth ball. And that's what we're going to do for each and every one of these. Okay, now they're going to be very similar. They're going to be pretty much the same all the way through. Where we put them together, and then we'll add the head at the end or the body at the end to kind of give it the effect. So all we're going to do, we're going to start off by rolling it into that ball, and then we're going to gently roll this into a sausage. Okay, so all I'm going to do is gently add pressure on the top, trying to keep it nice and even. I don't want it to be wavy, so I'm not pressing down at one end too much. I'm trying to keep the pressure all the same all the way along. Okay, so we want this to be kind of the same thickness all the way along the tentacle. Okay, so I'm going to roll this out, and we're looking for around about 7 or 8 centimeters on that ruler. Okay, so once you've rolled it out, just double check, bring it over to your ruler. So right now I am just over 7 centimeters right now, which is perfect. So the little trick we do now to kind of get these all together, because we're going to have these all together at the very same point. Okay, so at one end of your tentacle, all I'm going to do is gently press down to give it a flat end, just very slightly. The other end, if you want to, you can point the end so you know that the other end is kind of the tip or the point of the tentacle. Okay, so right now I've got a flattened end very slightly, and the other end is just pointed slightly, and you'll see more from the top. Okay, so we've done that once. I'm going to do that another 7 times now, obviously for each tentacle. I'll just show you where we're going to put the second one so we get an idea of how they are going to fasten together. So back to my smooth starting position. Same process, roll nice and even all the way along. Now you can cheat by not needing to use your ruler now. You can use obviously the tentacle that you've already made. So once I know it's close, I'm going to pinch one end and press down at the other, again giving it a flattened end. So what I was talking about before with how we fasten these is the flattened ends will all kind of stick on top of each other. So if you imagine these two that I've just done here are going to be at the very front of the octopus. It's going to be his front 2 tentacles. So if you can imagine, right at the very front, that's his 2 tentacles, and at the top here, this is the point where we're going to fasten everything together. They are going to fasten together like this. Okay, so we've got our front 2. We're going to move on to the next 2. So same process again. Stretch out, roll into a nice smooth ball. Roll, even pressure again to that 7 or 8 centimeters. Press down at one end and point the other slightly if you want. On to our 4th, and again I'm afraid it's the same process. You'll get better and better as this goes, because you'll get a little bit better with the clay. It'll become a little easier. Okay, so again the flattened 2 ends. So imagine if I'm bringing this to you and you can think that they're the front 2 tentacles. I'm going to take these 2 And we're going to place the flattened parts again directly on top of those flattened parts that we've already done. You can squish them down a little bit, and again bring them around to the front slightly. So we've got this kind of image now. Okay. Now the thing with the tentacles, we can kind of, or you should I say, can kind of put them wherever you want at the finishing position. Okay, so at the moment we're going to keep them all flat and even, because obviously as you move them around they may catch and they may stick to one another, and you might not want them to stick together straight away. So as we're working, I'm going to keep them separate, and then at the end, like you can see on the original, I've crossed them over and they kind of interlocking with each other, and as if the octopus has been moving and his little arms or tentacles are all kind of stuck together. Okay, so once we've finished with the decoration, we can overlap them and make them kind of cross over wherever you want. So it's going to be your decision where you put them. Okay, but for the time being, we're going to carry on. So again, I'm just going to gently, carefully put that at the top. Onto the next two. And again, same process. And again, these ones will again go on top of that point where we've all sticking them all together. Okay, same again then. One on each side. And again, I'm just keeping them separate, not letting them touch the others. If I can bring that up to the camera. So again, we've just stuck that on the top again. And finally, we're going to do the last two. Now the next thing is the suckers that go on the bottom of the tentacles. Now it's up to you how many you go for, depending on time within the class. Our model, or our example, generally goes with 3 little suckers on the end of each tentacle. Okay. Now again, depending on time, you may have time to do more, you may want to do more, all depending on, like say, the classroom and your teacher's needs right now. So once we've got these last 2 on, I'll show you how to do those. So my final 2, press down and point, and again finally getting those on right in that middle. So it could be quite raised in the middle, but again they're all on top of each other, like so. Okay, I'm going to keep them all off each other, because I don't want them sticking together for the time being. Okay, so the bit underneath that is touching the workstation is going to be the stickiest bit, because it's still kind of touching something. So they're going to be the areas that we're going to concentrate on getting the suckers stuck to. Okay, now the suckers are going to be red, so you basically are going to do a few tiny little red balls. Now when I say tiny, I mean very, very small. So if you want to use the 0.5 measurement circle on your card as a guide, if you could take a tiny bit of red and use that, and it fits within the 0.5, if you've got that, imagine taking one of your tools, you can do it with your hand as well, if you just cut that in half or snap that in half and roll that again very small into into a little ball, then they are basically the right size for a sucker. So every time you do a 0.5 measurement on your creator card, you will get 2 little red balls ready for the suckers. Okay, so if you can go through and get quite a few little 0.5 red balls measured out, chop them, cut them in half. And for you maths whizzes, you'll have already worked out how many you need. So if we do that together, we're going to have, if we are doing 3 on each, it's up to you. And like I say, everyone's slightly different. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, and finally 24. So I'm going to whiz on doing these 0.5s. And I'll carry on with that in a moment. So all you need to do in this situation, we've got the little round ball, give it a gentle press, and we just gently lift up one of the legs and tentacles, and gently press underneath, giving it the sucker kind of effect. Like so, we're going to do 3 on each for the time being. And again, if you've got time, depending on your class, you may be able to do more along, all the way along, okay? So I'm just starting with the very front tentacles, those first 2 that we did, and I'm placing these suckers underneath. Just gently pressing on, not too much. As the clay dries, they'll dry in. So as you can see now, I've got 3 on each. I'm going to pick this up. And I've got 3 on each. Again, I'm going to try not to let the legs touch for the time being. Get them back down. Okay, so work your way along, getting those 3 suckers on each tentacle. And then we will get onto shaping the main body. And we can then obviously get the tentacles in the position that you want them all in. We'll also add a little decoration onto the octopus himself with a little bit of blue decoration, some blue speckles on top of the main body, which we'll get to shortly. Like I say, keep working along. And I've got final, I need another 6. And that should be my suckers finished. Okay. Right, we're at a good start point now to get the body added on here. So not a lot of shaping to be done with this. It's not too bad. But if we can get that out of the airtight container, you'll notice it's still nice and fresh, like we said, ready to shape. So if you haven't already, let's give it a good stretch and roll into that nice smooth ball that we always start with. Okay, now what we are going to do with this we're going to kind of use the workstation to give you a flat bottom, so it will stick nicely on top of the tentacles. So all we're going to do, I'm going to rotate, so I'm going to spin the ball round, and if you notice, now that I've spun it round slightly, it's giving me a flatter bottom. Okay, now we want to kind of turn this not into a complete oval, but we're going to kind of just press a little bit. So as I'm doing it, I'm pressing right at the very bottom of the ball. Okay, so as you can see, as I'm going, it's becoming more of an egg shape. So I'm just gently pressing. I'm letting the workstation give it a flatter bottom, and I'm also getting that kind of shape. Okay, don't worry too much if you don't get it correct. If you've squished too much, roll it into a ball and start again. So I'm just rotating gently and pressing gently as well, and eventually you will end up with this kind of shape. Okay, so all we're going to do now, we're going to add some eyes before we add onto the body. So grab your white clay. Now the eyes are a little bit fiddly because it's such a small amount of clay, but if you can get it right, we'll get some nice looking eyes on there. So again, we're going to go use our creator card, and you're going to head over and use the 0.5 measurement with the white clay. 2 eyes, so we're only going to do that once, sorry, the one measurement, the 0.5 once, but that measurement we are going to cut in half again, similar as to we were doing with the tentacles, and split that into the 2 eyes, roll them out, and all we're going to do is flatten them, slightly. So once you've got white balls, give them a little press down, just gentle on the top, and turn them into little white discs. Onto your black clay. Now we are talking tiny, tiny, tiny amounts of clay. I've taken a pinch, which is probably going to be bigger than your pinch because you're going to have smaller fingers. So it's a tiny little pinch, and again, that tiny pinch needs to be quite a bit smaller than both these white bits. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to cut that again, and again, I'm going to try and get 2 little black balls, pretty much the same size, and then I will place them on top of the white eyeballs. Now, because we're working with such a small amount of clay here, I've still got a little bit of spare, so anything you don't quite use, I'll put back into my airtight container. Okay, so it doesn't matter on the head, body, whereabouts you're going to put these eyes, as in front, back, side, because the body or the head is very, very similar all the way around. But we're going to put them halfway up the body, so kind of where that lump starts to come out, and just gently put them on and give them a press on, just very, very gentle. Try not to squash the shape of the head. Okay. Once we've got that, it's time to add it onto the body. So again, I've kept this facing you, where I've got 2 at the front, 2 tentacles, and there's quite a bit of a gap at the back. So I want the eyes to be directly above, on top of the front tentacles. So I'm going to just gently put that on, give it a gentle press on. So now when I lift them up, should all be stuck together nicely, looking like this from the bottom, but from the top, it's all connected. Okay. As you can see, the tentacles are already starting to droop. So again, I'm going to put it back onto the table nice and quick. Try not to touch. So at this point, whilst we go on to the decoration, you can pick and choose now. So this is where you get the tentacles to kind of cross over and have kind of an effect that you want. Okay, so I'm going to maybe just cross the front 2 over, have him cross there. I'll have these 2 kind of crossing slightly, maybe turn one over. And like I say, this is completely up to you how you do this. There's no right, wrong. It's your kind of decoration here. So I'm going to have 2 coming over, and I think I'll just have this back one, kind of curve them back the other way slightly. Like I say, no right or wrong, it's how you feel you might want it. Okay, so the final bit of decoration that I mentioned before was a few speckly dots on the top of the octopus head. So I'm going to use my blue clay, and these dots or speckles can be any size. It's kind of a random gathering, and again, there's no right or wrong. I've just taken a pinch of blue. It is around just short of that 1 centimeter, and to be honest, that's probably going to be more than I will need anyway. So I'm going to go back to that process where we did before, where we're going to snap off or cut different size pieces of clay. So with this, when I said random, I've got different size little tiny balls, and I'm going to just, again, like I say, randomly dot them around the head to give them a little bit of decoration. So I'm going to go with a bigger one to start off with, just kind of at the back over here. Gently press it on. You want to try not to be too heavy-handed. You want to still kind of keep the shape of the octopus. You don't want to change it around. I'm going to do a smaller one just next to it. And maybe a tiny, tiny one. And like I say, this is your decoration. You can decorate as much as you want, how little you want, whatever way you want, okay? As I go, one there. And I'm going to do one final one over this side here. Just gently press them down. To get the speckle effect on the top. And you can carry on, you can do more if you want to. So good luck with your extra builds and your decoration. We'll see you again soon. Thank you.